Today we have two crew members from the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, a marine wildlife conservation organization featured on the TV series Whale Wars. Tod Emko, is that right?
Yes.
Is a New York-based computer programmer who has traveled with the Sea Shepherd to the Antarctic to defend the whales as a communications officer. Andrea Gordon is a lawyer and a former public defender who first joined Sea Shepherd in 2005 to protect the baby harp seals in Canada and the deep sea from bottom trawling. She crewed on Sea Shepherd's most recent Antarctic whale defense campaign this past winter, and they've both spent time at Sea Shepherd's Galapagos field office protecting the Marine Reserve and World Heritage Site. And outside of Sea Shepherd, they're starting the Darwin Animal Doctors, a comprehensive veterinary clinic in the Galapagos Islands. So please join me in welcoming SS crew members Tod Emko and Andrea Gordon. Take it away, guys.
Thanks so much, Lee, and thanks so much for having us here today at Google. It's just really such an honor to be here, and Googling is something I certainly do every day. So thanks so much for having us here. I'm Andrea Gordon.
I'm Tod Emko.
And has anybody here seen Whale Wars, the TV show? Okay, great. We have a few Whale Wars fans, but for any of you who haven't heard of Whale Wars or seen it, it's our hit TV show on Animal Planet. It's a reality show that takes you with us to the front lines of our battle to save whales in the Antarctic Whale Sanctuary from a criminal whaling operation. But what we wanted to talk to you today about is not just what you're going to see on the TV show, but it's really about individual actions and how it's up to every single one of us to really do our part to help save the oceans. And what we've seen being out at sea about the impacts of consumers like us on the oceans. And so Tod and I, we personally came up with 3 easy things that people can do in less than 5 minutes a day to help save the oceans. And those things are to grab a bag, which is to use reusable shopping bags, water bottles, that kind of thing. And we actually already saw that Google has taken a step with that and doesn't have bottled water available for employees. So I definitely commend Google on that. And the second thing that we came up with is to forgo the fish, which is to stop eating fish and other marine life. And the third thing that we came up with is for people to do number 1 and 2. So that's to grab a bag and to forgo the fish and talk about these issues in conservation.
We actually didn't come up with these 3 things lightly. We thought a lot about what we wanted to talk about today. At first, we thought like the easiest thing would obviously be just to talk about like our adventures with Sea Shepherd and dressing up in black and sneaking through the bush, chasing poachers and stuff, or fighting the Antarctic and getting grenades chucked at us and stuff. And that would be cool, I guess. But we wanted to add like a lot more value for your coming here and listening to us. And we thought, well, maybe we should talk about the dire need for groups like Sea Shepherd right now in the oceans. But we hate doom and gloom speeches. We hate it when documentaries and stuff do that to us. We're going to lighten up in your lunch break. And so we decided ultimately that we wanted to talk about a lot of things that a lot of research data and our own personal experience out there in the oceans say that is the most important things that we could be doing right now. Now, the thing is, the first thing you might say, well, there's a whole lot of issues out there, like global warming or world hunger and cultural clashes. But the thing is, the oceans are so important because their fate, the ocean's fate, is tied to humanity's fate.
See, I didn't even mute my own cell phone. Sorry, guys. Go ahead.
My time's up. But yeah, we also wanted to talk about why we feel so strongly about those 3 things that we mentioned and what we saw out there that made us believe it so much, and why we're willing to risk our lives and join Sea Shepherd and go down there and get into these battles and all these things that you see on Whale Wars. I mean, after all, we're not thrill seekers. We're not weekend warrior stuntmen. I was a computer geek. I started off working at Yahoo. Ike's left. I'm not evil either. So, and Andrea's a lawyer. We're not paintball fanatics or anything like that. So what was it that made us drop our nice jobs and our cushy New York lifestyles and go and put ourselves in danger? And the answer is pretty much that the oceans are that important. The oceans are so important, especially now with all these disasters happening, like the Gulf and with global warming and everything. Because how we come out as a race at the end of all these things is really going to be determined by how healthy our oceans are and how much life there is in the oceans to replace what was lost, how much in the oceans can balance and bring balance and regulate all the ecosystems that come out of this okay. And so that's why we decided that it's important enough to risk our lives for and join Sea Shepherd. And we picked Sea Shepherd in particular because it's so effective. Sea Shepherd is a very effective group. We're not a group of protesters. We don't wave signs and banners and ask poachers to stop killing whales. When we say we're going to save whales, we actually go and save whales. A lot of people know of our Antarctic campaign. That's our most famous one. But we also do a whole lot of other campaigns around the world. Right now, Sea Shepherd's main ship, the Steve Irwin, or one of our 2 ships, the Steve Irwin, is in the Mediterranean right now, saving the last of the bluefin tuna on Earth, some of the last ones from illegal poaching. We also do anti-longlining campaigns, and we also do anti-bottom trawling campaigns. Bottom trawling is probably the worst ecological disaster that we cause on purpose. We save baby seals in Canada from the seal clubbing, and we have a field office in Galapagos. That's very effective, actually, because that field office works directly with the Ecuadorian government in protecting the marine reserve there. So the more we found out, the more willing I was to give up this lifestyle and just go out there and save as much as I could. When Sea Shepherd called me and said, hey, do you want to come down to Antarctic? Can you actually buy a ticket tonight to come to Australia to meet our ship? I jumped at the chance. I bought a ticket. I quit my job that day. I flew down to Australia in a couple days. I got off the plane, realized I didn't know where to go. I asked people, where do you keep your ships in this town? Went down there. I was an American tourist looking for Steve Irwin. That came off as well as it sounds. But then, within less than a week, with this group, we went down there and we saved 500 whales from being harpooned. And so it's just direct action like that makes us really want to just keep on working with Sea Shepherd all the time.
So, yeah, go ahead.
And when I first got involved in Sea Shepherd, I had found out about Sea Shepherd's just absolute commitment to saving lives. And as a public defender, I'd always been very passionate and committed to saving lives. And I've just been doing that in the courtroom. But with Sea Shepherd, I transferred that passion and commitment to saving lives to saving our oceans and life in the oceans. And I remember I first joined the Bob Barker, which is our newest ship, and it was actually bought for by Mr. Bob Barker, the game show host. He made a generous donation to Sea Shepherd of $5 million to buy the ship last fall. And so
500 million?
5 million.
Oh, 5 million. I was like,
million.
Price is Right has been good to him.
No, 5 million. And we had just bought the ship in Ghana, and actually, interestingly enough, it was a former Norwegian whaling vessel. But now we were using that same Norwegian whaling vessel to actually go down and save whales. But I remember the first day that we were on the ship, and there were migrating whales that came up alongside the ship. And these migrating whales were actually down on their way to the whale sanctuary in Antarctica. And at the time, all I could think about was, oh my gosh, these are the same whales that are headed a few thousand miles down to the Southern Ocean, and we have to be there. We have to get the ship ready to be able to save them, because we're going to be their only defense once they're down in the Southern Ocean from the criminal whaling operation. But that was my thought, was just a few months down the line, we're going to have to save these whales. Well, later that day, I started really noticing that all around us in the ocean, and where these whales were migrating, there was actually plastic bags floating everywhere. And whales, turtles, birds, and other animals, they actually eat plastic thinking that it's food, because millions of years of evolution unfortunately hasn't prepared them for the reality that now that there's plastic all in the oceans, we actually very much have a plastic sea. And all this plastic, it was coming down out of the rivers off the mainland. And it's the very same thing that's going on here in New York. In Manhattan, we're on an island, and during a windy day or a storm, all the trash, all the loose plastic bags, all the cigarette butts, everything else, it just blows right into the Hudson River, into the East River, and it actually ends up in the same place in the oceans that the trash off Western Africa does. And the trash all congregates in these huge floating plastic swirling gyres in the ocean. And researchers have actually found that the density of plastic to plankton is 6 to 1 in these areas. So, and it's just flabbergasting. It's the same thing as if you were eating your morning cereal and there's 6 times as much plastic in your cereal as actual cereal, but you can't tell the difference what's what. And so that's what's going on in the oceans right now. And it's just because people let their trash go into the rivers, which goes right into the oceans. And so that's actually how we came up with the first thing that we think people can do to help save the oceans in just less than 5 minutes a day, and that's to take a reusable shopping bag with you when you go out for the day. There's little ones that fit, in your pocket, fit over your shoulder. Take it with you. They're small, they're sturdy, and it uses even less plastic and petroleum to produce those. And same with the water bottles, which I know Google's already working on, so that's great. And that was just what I saw, though, in the first day of being on our ship. And that night, though, was a whole nother story. And it presented a whole nother danger to the whales. Because what happened that first night was that there were all these fishing ships that came out. And there was fishing nets everywhere and fishing ships. And even with our radar, our binoculars, we actually had trouble navigating through all these fishing nets. And I thought, oh my gosh, how are the whales going to navigate through these? And unfortunately, whales don't always make it through. And I suspect that not all the whales that we saw migrating probably even made it down to the Southern Ocean Whale Sanctuary. Because unfortunately, commercial fishing uses massive, massive nets. And whales, dolphins, seabirds, turtles, and everything else happens to swim into it just to catch a few specific fish. And while most people don't eat whale, most people do eat fish. And so part of protecting the whales and protecting the oceans is not eating fish. And that's how we came up with the second thing, which is to forgo the fish. And this also hit home a lot more. Actually, jumping ahead to our very last day of the campaign, we were at this point we were all the way down in Antarctica by the continent. And this is, as far, far, far as you can get from humanity. We were down this beautiful, beautiful area called Mackenzie Bay, down by the continent, and this was an area that was so pristine and stunning and just was full of whales and seals and birds and penguins, and was really just a realm that was for them. It was an ice realm, a watery realm, and it was a realm just for those animals in a sanctuary. But as we were chasing a whaling ship, we happened to pass a bright orange buoy, and later on we stopped to investigate, and it turned out this buoy was an illegally set fishing net, and it was 5 miles long. So it was a fishing net that actually would have stretched from Battery Park all the way up to Central Park. And it was going to catch every single thing that swam into it. And so as Sea Shepherd and as a law enforcement organization and as a marine conservation organization, we confiscated that net. And as we were leaving Mackenzie Bay, we actually caught that ship, and it had set another net. So that was 10 miles of fishing line all the way down in Antarctica. And what's significant about that is not just that there's illegal fishing all the way at the end of the planet, but that there is fishing at all the way at the end of the planet. And the reason that there is fishing all the way by Antarctica is because all the big fish are gone in the oceans. And since 1950, industrial fishing has taken out 90% of all big fish in the oceans. And we think this planet is 4 billion years old. 60 years isn't even hardly a blink in our lifetime, in this planet's lifetime. And so that means that we're actually in the middle of a mass extinction. And it's a mass extinction in our oceans, and our oceans cover, 70% of this planet. We're a blue planet. So it's a huge, huge emergency what's going on in our oceans. And that's why we're really willing to risk our lives to save the last 10% of the fish and these shadow populations of whales that still are in our oceans. And we personally think that what we should be doing is not talking about how we can just continue eating the last 10% of the fish that are in the oceans, but how we can have that natural abundance of fish and biodiversity and life on this planet, and how we can go back to having a perfect ocean.
So guys, I guess with the BP oil spill happening, a lot of questions come up about like market-driven accountability, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me about how, I know it's kind of the also an objective of Sea Shepherd to disrupt and to cost as much money as possible to these operations, which effectively kind of achieves the same goal as saving a whale, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me about some of the operations where you guys, as opposed to not just directly saving a specific whale, but some of the other kind of activities that you guys do, to kind of help like cost them as much money as possible, I guess, right?
Right. Well, a lot of this is all driven by economics. And so with the whaling, just going back to the whaling operation though, it's when we save over 500 whales, we're costing them millions of dollars every year. And a lot of what's going on is this is actually being subsidized by governments in the way of fuel subsidies and also just direct fishing subsidies. So addressing those and costing them that much money economically, it does cut down and it will stop whaling and sink the whaling fleet economically. And same with the fishing fleets. They operate on a very small margin a lot of times of profit. Say for example, bottom trawling. The only reason what bottom trawling is basically bulldozing the ocean floor and coral. There's deep sea coral, just bulldozing it to catch a few fish. So it's the same thing as just bulldozing the rainforest to catch a few birds. So what Sea Shepherd has done is we did a deep sea bottom trawling campaign to stop areas of illegal bottom trawling. And since bottom trawlers, there's only about 200 ships worldwide that are causing all this destruction, and they operate on fishing subsidies. And it actually wouldn't even be possible or profitable for them to continue some of this fishing without some of the fishing subsidies. But it all revolves around economics.
I see. Todd, do you have any examples?
Well, in the Galapagos, we also have a pretty fun exercise where we have a lot of poaching equipment and poaching operations in the Marine Reserve. And actually, each week, we're seeing them coming from countries further and further away because there's just no fish in between the Galapagos and even Asia, China now. And so we find a lot of this equipment in the park. So what we do is that we take it because it costs more than our stuff, so we might as well use it. And then we take it apart and we repurpose them into things that we can try to use to save the environment. Like our office in Galapagos is now partially powered by solar panels that we've taken from marine buoys that are used as fish aggregate devices. And we use antennas that we take from a lot of these fish devices, use them in our communications gear. And so I like this project because I like irony. And so
effectively you're having like the whalers equipment is kind of helping you guys achieve your goal.
Yes.
By disrupting them.
Yeah. They got higher price stuff. We might as well use theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely kind of cool. So what else? I guess some of the other operations. You said you were up in Canada saving the baby seals, or maybe some of the stuff because I guess you're going to be on the new season of Whale Wars that starts tomorrow.
Right. It airs tomorrow night on Animal Planet at 9, and it'll be on every Friday night this summer. And so what do they cut from what they're going to show on TV? Like what could you tell us something that happened that they won't show on TV, or is it all pretty much there? Well, Animal Planet does document everything that happens on the show. I mean, on our battle to save the whales. I actually haven't seen the new season, so I don't know what.
You let me know what it's going to look like?
I'm not sure what's on it.
That'd be interesting. So I guess we can open up for questions. If anyone wants to jump up one of these microphones, either side, ask any questions, talk about anything that's on your mind. I'm sure these guys will be happy to oblige. Zach.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey, John. It's on down here.
It's on down here?
It is. I think John's going to unmute it for you in a second.
Greetings. Welcome. Thanks for coming. It's great you guys are here. My question is, so you talked about your regular life before you guys started doing this. So
right.
Can you just talk more about that? I mean, had you lived on a boat for a long time before? What's it really like to be doing this with also like the iconic characters that you're around? And how do you feel living this sort of like idealistic, driven life instead of the one that you had previously? And you're on land right now. Like, right. Are you making money, and how are you alive right now? Are you employed by Sea Shepherd all the time? Like,
why are you alive?
Yeah, like how are you alive? Just talk more about your life.
Yeah. Well, I'm actually, now that I'm back, because I've been back from our most recent campaign at the Galapagos for quite a few months now. So I got another programming job, actually down on Hudson Street. I'm making websites again. I'm not doing this as a pitch to work for Google or anything, but yeah, when we're around in town, we usually work and live our.
Do you want to just do some coding interviews today?
Do you have a test for me?
We can just set it up. I mean, we'll just walk you down the hall. Just some
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
When I'm in town, I usually work. Fortunately, programming is something that I can do on a freelance basis when I'm in town, or sometimes when I'm working in the Galapagos in my off time, I'll do like contract jobs for companies here in the States. Unfortunately, it's something that I can pick up and drop pretty easily. I've been doing it for a long time, and then so hire me.
Any other questions?
But
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
that's okay. In answer to your question, it is kind of a big change going to live on a ship, and I think our ship, I was on it for 6 months, and it's probably about the size of this room here, and so it is a big change. But at the same time, I think I've been so passionate about saving lives, and I believe so much in what Sea Shepherd's doing and I believe so much also in being a public defender and helping people and saving lives that way, that it wasn't such a big change. It wasn't a mental leap or emotional leap. And so in that sense, it was very easy for me to transition. And I actually had just been taking a sabbatical over the last year, and so I'd been using that time to work with Sea Shepherd.
Actually, in answer to have we been on boats before, actually before I served with Sea Shepherd, I don't think I've ever been on a boat except for maybe the Staten Island ferry, actually. And the cabin that I got was actually the forwardmost cabin on the ship, which was a good introduction to ship life. They called it the ZeroG Chamber, and I asked why, and they said, "Oh, you'll find out." And I found out that night, the first night, because I woke up airborne off of my bunk, and I had to learn over time how to wedge myself in between walls in my cabin in various ways to basically wedge myself between objects in order to sleep.
How are your sea legs?
Oh, they were great. Actually, when we went out there, I was one of the only people that didn't get seasick, and I think it's because I play so many video games compared to the other crew that I was used to that motion and everything. When we all came off of the ship, we actually all got land sick again, though. Well, the first thing we did was we all walked off of the ship like at the same time. We all stood there and we were all doing this simultaneously, as if we all had iPods on. We're like listening to something. Yeah.
Sir?
I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit more about like the ship operations, because right now you have 4 or 5 active ships, and I know on the show you have the 2 new ones down there and stuff like that. But how do you guys decide which ships are going during which seasons, and how do you sort of coordinate that with having a TV show?
Well, we actually had 3 active ships go down to our last campaign in the Antarctic. That was our flagship, the Steve Irwin, our newest ship, which is the Bob Barker, and we had taken down a 3rd ship, which was our fast boat, and that was the Addie Gill. But we only came back with 2 ships. The Japanese whalers intentionally sunk the Addie Gill. So we came back with 2 ships, and we have 2 main active ships right now.
And that's that wave piercing. It looks like a Batmobile on water, right?
Yes.
Nicknamed the Batmobile. Yeah.
It's a very futuristic ship.
So what happened?
Is
that going to spoil the show if you tell us how it got sunk? I mean, how they sunk it?
No. Well, the whalers intentionally the Addie Gill was actually stopped, and the whalers intentionally turned into the Addie Gill and split it right in 2. And I saw the whole thing happen, and I just couldn't believe that we weren't actually pulling bodies out of the water.
So has anyone ever died in any Sea Shepherd operation?
No, Sea Shepherd has a meticulous safety record, and we've never had any serious injuries. And actually, it was one of our first injuries was one of the people on the Addie Gill had 2 bruised ribs, but luckily those healed.
So are there any I'm sure there are guidelines, but are there rules to engagement? Are there certain lines that you can or cannot cross, or is it something that's left up to the individual to kind of decide? How is that structured? I imagine it's very hierarchical with the captain, what you can and cannot do. Yeah. So where is that line sitting, and how does it move, or does it?
Battles look chaotic and stuff when you see them on the show, etc., especially when everyone's shooting at each other and stuff, but it's actually very, very well planned. Everything is meticulously planned and well placed. For instance, when we attack the Nishin Maru with our stink bombs and so forth, we're aiming only for whaling decks that no people are on, because the #1 rule is that you can't harm any people. And so what the stink bombs do is that we're actually aiming for whaling decks. And when these stink bombs hit the whaling decks, it spoils any meat that you might put on there, so they can't process whales on there.
Gotcha.
And it also smells so bad that after an attack, we literally have to close all our portals and windows and doors for like a whole week when we're anywhere within a half mile of them, because that's how bad it stinks. And in fact, we don't see anyone on their decks for maybe a week after an attack. And then the other thing that we throw is called methacellulose, which we throw on top of the stink bombs. And methylcellulose, it's the chemical substance that which coats pills, so that makes them easier to swallow. So when you see like people have thrown stink bombs on your decks and stuff, your first instinct is to use a hose and wash it off.
Right.
But when you wash off the methylcellulose, moisture activates it and it makes it super slippery, so you can't wash anything off of it. So it looks really chaotic, but it's really very well planned. One of the only spontaneous things that we threw was this. There was this horrible vegan salad dressing that no one liked on the ship, and we were starting to run out of things to throw, and we were like, what do we throw? And we're like, let's get rid of the salad dressing. And so we chucked the salad dressing. We just thought, wow, that's the end of that. It was this horrible imitation blue cheese stuff, And we thought that was the end of that. But then 2 days later, the front headlines out of Japan were, terrorist group throws white chemical substance. Like, what is it? Is it anthrax? What could they have? They had people in hazmat suits out there. We're like, so they never actually released their research findings on it.
Yeah, I imagine not. No, blue cheese. Ill prepared. Let's see what else. So like I know like on the side of the ship they'll say like we've sunk X amount of vessels or whatever. So I mean, is it we've never seen that happen on the show. Is it something that is do you do it at sea? I know people will be like, well, that's not right. You shouldn't go and sink vessels because people can die and that kind of thing. So tell me more about how you guys sink vessels.
Well, Sea Shepherd has a long history of protecting whales, and it actually started back in the late 70s. And Paul Watson, who's our founder, he went after a pirate whaling ship named the Sierra. And the Sierra was a pirate whaling ship, meaning it wasn't registered to anyone, and it just went around the world killing whales. So Sea Shepherd has a strict nonviolence policy, and to take out the Sierra, the pirate whaling ship, Sea Shepherd sunk it while it was in port and nobody was on board. So Sea Shepherd has a very, very strict policy on not harming people and saving lives.
So what about like other environmental damage like fuel and stuff? Like do you to like sink a vessel, is there a risk of like say the ship's fuel or oil or whatever spilling into the ocean, or how is that?
Well, what actually happened during the last campaign when the whalers sunk our ship, which was the Addie Gill, and there were 6 people on board, was we on the Bob Barker, we actually did the rescue operation. We made sure to empty the ship of any fuel or oil on board. So it didn't sink immediately, and by the time that it did sink, we managed to get all the toxic substances off.
Oh, that's cool. So you guys do have, you guys are responsible with your actions. It's not like you're just going. I mean, there's some controversy about what the methods you guys use. So I was interested on how you guys mitigated those other.
Sure. No, we absolutely have taking care of the environment and protection of life as our #1 priority.
So I'm a little guilty. I eat fish. I eat meat. I know you guys are a completely vegan operation when you're out on the sea, but I don't plan on not eating fish next week or next month. But I have reduced tremendously the amount of fish that I have eaten. I eat less tuna.
Great.
I eat a little bit more salmon I shift it. I do eat sushi. We have sushi here. I'm sure there's people that eat fish here. I want to be able to continue to have salmon 30 years from now. I want my children to be able to taste it. Maybe they don't eat it all the time, but it'd be nice for them to be able to experience it. So that makes me think that responsible fishing is probably the best way, so we can have some kind of sustainable, for the industry, for the species, and for the oceans, and for the livelihood of everyone. Do you think that's like a fair compromise for people that do still want to continue to eat fish, or do you think, like I'm asking way too many questions, but from like a policy standpoint, do you think we're going in the right direction? Do you think I watched the show Deadliest Catch, also horrible. It's the exact opposite of you guys' show. But I've seen in that show over the course of 3 years that they have a quota system. They're trying, they're pretty strict about the rules. And it seems like with visibility into that industry, it's changed how they operate. And maybe for the better, maybe not. I'm not sure. I don't know the details. But what do you guys think about that?
Well, I definitely think sustainable fishing may be a step in the right direction, and I think Google's taking the lead in that, but it's just not enough at this point. And we all want to see a future where there are fish, and a future where there are whales and animals in the oceans. And there, unfortunately, have been a lot of problems with the sustainability quotas and how different organizations say that one certain fish is sustainable. For example, ahi tuna, 3 different organizations labeled it differently. One said that it was safe, another said that it was avoid, and one kind of in the middle. So there have been a lot of problems with that, and then factoring in illegal fishing, which completely skews all the statistics.
Right.
It's almost impossible at this point to really and accurately evaluate how many fish are left in the oceans as far as what we can take of the last 10% and how. But, generally as guiding principles on what to eat, it's better to eat, lower on the food web.
Sure.
And instead of eating the top, predatory animals, the more people have a plant-based diet and eat lower on the food web, it's better for the planet. Generally, along with, organic and local food.
Gotcha.
And that includes pet food too.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say, "Oh, it's natural to give tuna to your cat." It's not. Your cat's never stood by the water with a harpoon, and, taking out this creature.
Blue tuna like this.
Taking pictures of my cat. Yeah. But that's a big source of fish usage that people don't really think about, but is a huge contributor to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cool.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the crowd?
Okay.
Thoughts? Solutions?
Yeah.
So another thing that I guess when I was watching the show was like, well, other ways to kind of like disrupt them or whatever. Like, well, I would take the helicopter and why don't you give him the acid, then drop it from above? Then the spray things they can't defend against it. So are there, like, is that something that you guys would try? Or are there certain rules? Well, we don't want that can only carry one thing, and it's not safe for him to be dropping acid, or they're going to start attacking the helicopter kind of thing. How does that work?
Chris Allman, our helicopter pilot, he is licensed, so he's not going to do anything that would risk losing his license. Also, we don't want the helicopter to become the object of attack by the whalers, which they've actually tried to do before.
Sure.
But it's so risky to the people in the helicopter, and there's such a large risk of human life that it's not something that we do.
You just keep it more as your reconnaissance vehicle.
Yeah.
So what's next after the Andy Gill? If the carbon fiber Batmobile, are they gonna repair it? Are they going to?
The Andy Gill is sunk.
Oh,
so
it was at the
sunk.
bottom of the ocean.
Yeah,
okay.
It actually sunk. It's split in two and sunk now. So hopefully there will be an Andy Gill too.
Okay.
We hope so, but Sea Shepherd has already announced that as long as there's a criminal whaling operation, that we're going to go down there. So Sea Shepherd has already announced Operation No Compromise for next year.
Cool. We got one here. Yes, sir.
I have a question. So do you ever wonder, with all the sort of very confrontational, violent form of protest you engage in, that you're actually hardening public opinion in Japan? Because at least from my perspective, if I see you guys, smashing up against boats thousands of miles from anybody else, boarding them, I would think, especially when, it seems that Norway and Iceland are also hunting minke whales and almost the same amount, that if I was in Japan, I would say, okay, well, these protesters are just thugs out there having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you reconcile that with
Sea Shepherd's not a violent organization, and going and saving a whale, which is a magnificent creature, from being harpooned and having the whale take 23 minutes to die, that's violence. That's violence, is harpooning a whale. Going and putting our ship in the way of that harpoon and blocking that harpoon, and if a ship gets damaged in the process, then so be it. But to us, our main priority is going down there and saving the whales.
And answer to your question about the Japanese opinion, actually what's happening now with our campaign is that more and more Japanese are now actually finding out for the first time that their country is actually whaling. Because a lot of the country had no idea that it was even going on before this happened. Mm-hmm. And actually, without Japanese support, we couldn't do a lot of the things that we did. The only person under my command actually on the ship was a Japanese citizen who did a lot of the research and translating for us. So there is a lot of support, but it's very hard. It's very, very difficult to be an environmentalist in Japan. It's very difficult to go against a government program like this. So a lot of it has to be done very furtively. A lot of them help us out any way they can, but a lot of it's very not public.
I guess I meant, but you continue to think that your methods are the best way to stop the whaling?
Our methods are stopping whaling, both directly saving lives and economically. So until the governments of the world actually step in to do something, because Sea Shepherd wouldn't be down there if the governments were actually doing their jobs and going down there and enforcing international law. This is a whale sanctuary, and it's very much an illegal criminal whaling operation. So we would love to have the governments come down there and drive the whalers out, and then we wouldn't need to go down there every year, but we will continue to go down as long as there's an illegal whaling operation.
Illegal by which laws?
It's commercial whaling has been outlawed by the International Whaling Commission. And where all these whales are going is actually right to people's plates, and it's being sold for about $60 million worth of whale meat a year, which is a criminal whaling operation, and it's also been designated a whale sanctuary, so it's very much an illegal whaling operation.
And I read recently that Australia is trying to take court action against Japan, and that the U.S. and New Zealand have rejected or have criticized that tactic. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the Australian government actually, one of their campaign promises a few years ago was that they were going to take legal action over the illegal whaling. And so they're finally now following through on that, and they have sued Japan in international court over their whaling. So I do commend Australia for taking that action and following through on that campaign promise that they said they were going to do.
Is that a better or worse approach than throwing stink bombs?
The question was, is that a better or worse approach than throwing stink bombs?
Well, we need different approaches. And on one hand, we need the media, we need to go down there, save lives, and protect the whales, but we also need international law being enforced. So it's good to have both.
Sorry, what do you mean we need the media?
No, we need both approaches. We need international law to be enforced, and we also need the direct action of going down there and saving lives and protecting the whales.
Sir?
So I guess that question that comes up for me then is who is? You said that governments aren't taking action and whatnot. So who is on the planet taking action? What groups who are enforcing the moratorium on whaling?
It's really not being enforced right now, and that's why Sea Shepherd is the one organization that's going down there to enforce that moratorium. You know, and it's always up to individuals, and it's just individuals who go out and decide they're going to do good things and save lives, or maybe just change their consumer habits. And so next time you go out, you do take a bag with you, and you make sure you take your coffee mug or water bottle. So, you know, that plastic bag that you were going to bring your lunch home in, it doesn't somehow end up being eaten by a leatherback turtle. And it's really just up to the individuals.
Yeah, we can't really emphasize that enough, that it's really up to the consumer. The consumer has so much power here. When you go to the Galapagos, which are these isolated, highly protected islands in the middle of the ocean, you have trash lining up all over the beaches, and this trash is coming from all the way from Chile. There's trash lining all the oceans, covering the oceans that far away from the mainland where they're being dropped into the water. We've taken out all the fish, and we've literally replaced it with plastic. It's a global catastrophe, but it's not being caused because of volcanoes or because of meteors. It's the most avoidable catastrophe we could be faced with. And it's all because of our consumer habits. And if we change that, then we can eliminate the problem just by changing what we buy.
So we're talking about enforcement, and you guys being the only, I guess, people actually seeing if there's any illegal activities going on, because there's very little surveillance, I guess, in the ocean. Do you think there might be some kind of like satellite surveillance, at least tracking of vessels? So if there's like an unauthorized vessel in the unauthorized area, that might be something, or that information might help kind of track or reduce the amount of illegal fishing?
Sure. Using technology and vessel tracking is a really easy way for governments to enforce laws. And actually, the national park in the Galapagos is already doing that. And last year, they implemented a vessel monitoring system for the Galapagos Marine Reserve, and they actually caught a tuna ship illegally catching tuna in their waters because they noticed it on their vessel monitoring system. So that is one really great way for governments.
Do you know what the kind of technology that is? Is it satellite based? Is it some kind of proximity from? I guess it's Galapagos pretty small relative to the entire planet.
Yeah.
But no, but that's cool that they are utilizing that kind of information. Anybody else?
Ready?
Sure.
Why is there such a lack of concern on the governments to get involved?
It comes down to money. It comes down to money.
It's expensive to track these.
It's not even. It's a lot more expensive to have all the fish depleted from the oceans and have, fisheries collapsing all over the world. But the most immediate concern is that there's just not the political will, because consumers want to have whatever fish they want, and then people who are in the fishing industry have a very strong political lobby.
It's a demand for it.
Yeah.
And if I could just switch topics a little bit.
Sure.
This whole BP oil mess, how far-reaching do you think that's going to be? I mean, I keep hearing on the news how it's, a United States problem, but I can't see this stopping anywhere soon.
Our crew has been down there, actually, and we've been monitoring independently of BP how bad it's going to be and trying to formulate a better plan in order to help clean it up and organize more ships to do it. Right now, it's staggering how much we don't know because of how little access anyone is allowed there right now. And so the first step is going to be to assess how bad it's going to be, and right now it's looking worse than what anyone's dreaming about.
I mean, it's going to be a global effect.
Yes, most definitely.
Well, it's one ocean, effectively,
It
too,
is
right?
one
So it's
ocean.
all going to get mixed together.
It is one ocean.
Yeah.
Pacific Islanders have
Yeah.
us saying actually that the oceans are not what divides us, but what connects us. And I think events like the Gulf oil spill are really going to illustrate that for people. But
And what was because I took a tour of the Steve Irwin when it was docked in the Hudson River and met Tod, and when he was giving the tour, he mentioned there was a statue given to Sea Shepherd or the Steve Irwin from the Dalai Lama. Is that right? Can you
Yes.
tell me about what statue he gave you guys?
Yes, he gave us a little statue, and it represented the Tibetan demon of wrathful compassion. And he said that the Dalai Lama, who's one of our supporters, he said that the demon represents the fact that you can teach people how to be compassionate. You can tell them all the reasons why they shouldn't kill, why they shouldn't cause suffering. But if you tell them everything, you teach them everything, and they still go out and they still start killing people, sometimes you just have to scare the hell out of them in order to get them to stop doing it. And he said that we represented that Tibetan demon, and so he gave us that statue, so as sort of to commemorate our place as our job.
Yeah, no, I think that was really cool. That was really cool. So thank you guys for coming. It was a great discussion. Thank you guys for coming, and look forward to seeing the show tomorrow.
great. Lee, thanks so much for having us.
Of course.
Google, thanks so much for having us. It was really our pleasure to be here today.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.